Abu Abdullah Rudaki, an appreciation. Abu Abdullah Rudaki was born in 858 AD in the village of Banuj in the Rudak district of Samarkand. According to Sam'ani in Labab al-Ansab, Rudaki's full name is Abu Abdullah Ja'far ibn Muhammad ibn Hakim ibn Abdurrahman ibn Adam. Rudaki's life is intertwined with the Arab invasion of Iran. It is best understood in that context. The invasion disrupted the lives of the Iranian people and forced them to flee from Ctesiphon, Susa, and Ray to Transoxiana, where they settled. Even though by the time of Rudaki the fury of the invasion had subsided, the turbulence created by the influx continued. Thus, during the lifetime of Rudaki, the political power of Iran was on the decline, while the intellectual power of the Iranian people was on the rise. According to Aufi, Rudaki was so intelligent that by the age of 8, he had memorized the entire text of the Quran. After learning the intricacies of the Dari language, he began to compose poetry. Soon after that, his poetry captivated the imagination of the people of the Zarafshan foothills. And in time, he became known as both the founder of Persian literature and one of the most prominent poets of Perso-Tajik people. Needless to say, he was the first among his peers to create a divan and to use the science of prosody. In fact, the poetic standards that Rudaki created in the 9th century are still valid. For example, the poetry of Muhammad Taqi Bahar is composed according to the prosody that Rudaki established. In addition, Rudaki played the lute skillfully and had a pleasant voice. Using his musical talent, he created an unbreakable bond with the world of the musicians and dancers of his time. Rudaki's lute master was Abul Anak Bakhtiyar, a famous lute player. During Bakhtiyar's time, the art of padwajak, or singing, was elevated to the highest level. In due course, Rudaki excelled his master, inherited his master's lute, and created 2 new genres, the rubai and the tarana. Rudaki's poetic talent, his skill in playing the lute, and his soulful voice attracted larger and larger audiences to Bukhara. Eventually, his fame reached the court of Amir Nasr ibn Ahmad II. The emir invited Rudaki to his court, where the poet spent most of his life. As a result of Rudaki's participation, as well as with the countless contributions of other literary greats, the Samanid court became distinguished as the center of cultural activities in the lands of the Eastern Caliphate. Rudaki's contributions, which were in tune with the Samanist policy of reviving the ancient heritage of the Iranian peoples, enhanced Rudaki's influence at the court and added to his wealth. Sa'alabi, a contemporary traveler, provides a vivid description of the circumstances in which the prominent literary figures of the time gathered and discussed affairs. He says, during the rule of the Samanids, Bukhara was considered not only the center of glory, but also the seat of the most unique intellectuals of the age. Abu Ja'far Muhammad ibn Musa al-Musawi narrates, "In the days of Amir Sa'id, my father Abu al-Hasan received an invitation to Bukhara. When he returned, He described his experience as follows. The discussions of the scholars were well organized and highly instructive. One of them would bring up a topic, a colleague would express his opinion about it, then the two would continue debating it. When the discussion between the originators was exhausted, the other colleagues joined and probed the various aspects and nuances of that topic thoroughly. This activity continued until a result acceptable to all was reached. My father said to me, "My son, our time is worthy of great attention because the most outstanding scholars of the age have gathered here and the highest standards of talent are presented. I want you, after my death, to include these events among the significant moments of your life and always remember them. Because I think over the passage of years, moments like these will rarely be repeated." And so it was, and my eyes never witnessed an event such as my father had described. Regarding Rudaki's life, there are several thought-provoking questions. Here, we address three of them. There is an assertion in Aufi to the effect that Rudaki was blind from birth. Literally, he was born blind from mother. Aufi's assertion, however, is not supported by other chroniclers of the time, such as Sam'ani, Nizami Aruzi, and the anonymous author of Tarikh Sistan. Here is the question. Could a poet conjure up tender and delightful images of nature as elegantly as Rudaki does and be blind from birth? The consensus is that Rudaki listened to the stories and songs that were prevalent among his people, assessed the desires and needs of his contemporaries, then reflected those sentiments in his poetry. The next question is about Rudaki and Ismaili Shi'ism. There's no doubt that at the time of Rudaki, the Ismailis were trying to direct the influence of the prominent figures of Bukhara to move their own doctrine and da'wah forward. Both Amir Nasr ibn Ahmad II and Abu Fazl Bal'ami, his longtime prime minister, are said to have been Ismailis. Furthermore, it is believed that Rudaki, a favorite of Bal'ami, and some other prominent figures of the time shared Bal'ami's Ismaili tendencies. In other words, we can speculate that Nasr ibn Ahmad II, Bal'ami, and Rudaki shared the same views, if not the same faith. In 937, a fallout between the Emir and Bal'ami resulted in the expulsion of Bal'ami and the dismissal of Bal'ami's protege Rudaki from the court. After being expelled from the court, Rudaki's life took a downturn and he spent the rest of his life in seclusion. The third question is with regard to Rudaki's connection with Kalila wa Demna. The problem is that this work was considered lost in its entirety until recently, when about 120 verses of it were discovered. Originally, this work, known variously as Panchatantra and the Fables of the Beat Pie, was part of the treasury of the rulers of India. Burzuye, the famed physician of Khosrow I Anushiravan, brought Panchatantra to the Sasanian court and translated it into Pahlavi, Middle Persian, and using other Indian sources, expanded it. After that, Ibn Muqaffa translated the work from Pahlavi into Arabic, and Rudaki put it into Persian verse. Rudaki's opulent lifestyle and the fact that he had the Emir's ear have spawned a number of stories about him. The most fabulous is the story about an event that happened in Herat. The story is centered on Rudaki's power of persuasion. According to Nizami Samarkandi in Chahar Maqale, Rudaki's patron, Amir Nasr ibn Ahmad II, wintered in Bukhara and spent spring and summer in other delightful spots. One year, the Emir's stay in Herat lasted longer than usual. In addition, it was being rumored that he intended to spend the winter in Herat as well. Some even suspected that the Emir might make Herat his capital city. Faced with these prospects, the Emir's companions, the commanders of the army, and others approached Rudaki and asked him to persuade the Emir to depart Herat for his beloved Bukhara. Rudaki recited the following ode in the presence of the Emir.
The sweet fragrance of the Mulyan brook recalls memories so long forsook. Rough sands of the Oxus beneath my feet caress them as with silk, soft and sweet. O Bukhara, live long, always full of cheer, your guests the Emir, joyous and dear. The Oxus, seeing the friends' joy and mirth, leaps up warmly to our horses' girth. Bukhara is the sky, brilliant moon is he. O mighty sky, embrace thy moon with glee. Thou art the mead, stately cypress he. Receive thee anon, thy beloved cypress tree. Adulation is beneficial by any measure, withheld would harm a worthy treasure.
While Rudaki was still strumming his lute and singing, the Emir left the assembly and set out to Bukhara. Persian sources attribute between 10,000 and 1,300,000 verses to Rudaki. Of these, only 1,000 verses are in existence, and they are scattered in fragments among biographies, histories, and books of advice. Rudaki's main themes include the passage of time, old age, the inevitability of natural death, the fickleness of fortune, the importance of matters of the heart, and the need to seek happiness. Rudaki paid special attention to self-reliance. He said individuals should strive to achieve their desires through their own personal effort. The following verse, indicative of Rudaki's belief in the importance of acquiring knowledge, is inscribed on his monument in Dushanbe. No ordinary teacher will ever teach the pupil whom time failed to reach. هر که ناموخت از گذشت روزگار نیز ناموزد ز هیچ آموزگار. Thank you for your attention.